also ask the question in terms of, hey, how does this relate to me as a BA, right? Third year talked about it, hey, what do I supposed to do at each of the phases? Okay. So think about it first from a high level, instead of worrying about what each phase I need to do it. As a business analyst, what role I'm playing in an overall entire solution development. Okay. So the first thing the business analyst does that is assisting with the business case. So a lot of times you may have to sit down with the stakeholders and say, okay, let's just build a business case. How much profit it's going to be, what it's going to cost us to do it, build a solution, right? So primarily it's the program project manager will be driving it, but business analyst is with them, providing it information and say, hey, if you want to do it a more distributed solution, you need to think about this, this, and this also. So your solution is not going to be simple, it's going to be more complex and involved. Versus if you're building everything into one monolithic system, I don't have to worry about any other variation. You can just build it very quickly, type of thing. Or is it going to cost us this much time and material? Is it worth it? Then they also talked about in terms of planning and monitoring, right? So as things moves it from the planning phase into the analysis phase, they work closely and says, okay, what was the intention in the planning? What is the business goal? What is the context in which the solution is trying to be built? Let's just make sure everything that plays in the role into that. And that drives it into is, okay, let me just sit down with the various business users. Because once the business case gets approved, it's typically approved at the executive level. But the people who are end users or working it, they are the one who will be using system and solutions on a day-to-day basis. So they are the one who will be telling, hey, I want it this way, or no, if you're in the state of Ohio, here are the rules and regulations, you need to follow it, versus if I go into the state of Pennsylvania, here are the different rules that I need to follow, right? So those kind of, getting that information out from the user, that's where the business analyst plays a key role. Then they also look into it, say, okay, now I'm collecting all these pieces of information. How do I organize it so that it becomes a much more a process-focused solution? And then I need to take that and you need to convert it into an easy way to be understood by the people who are building the solution, or architects or designers of the solution. A lot of times business may be speaking one language, the architects and the developers are talking about specific, hey, tell me what algorithm I need to code. Business doesn't care for algorithm, business cares for what are the rules and regulations I need to follow. So one of the key role business analyst plays is understanding that requirement and converting into what is known as system requirement, which is much more focused to the systems. Okay. They are also responsible for the requirements management throughout the life cycle. So the time from the planning it starts till it goes into the acceptance phase, all the mapping of the requirements, all the changing or the change management needs, they are responsible for making sure that there is a traceability and there is a management around. If the business says, no, I didn't mean that, I meant that, making sure that that communication goes to the developer in the middle of the development. If they're changing things for clarity, then you go ahead and define it. Also, once a solution is built, you are the first one who actually looks at the solution. Does it meet what is expected out of it? So a lot of times you will see a business analyst get engaged into what is known as user acceptance testing. But they go and say, hey, is this solution validates what I'm looking for? So you get engaged throughout the cycle. Okay. Now as we build a solution, right, we're going to do a little bit hybrid approach. We're going to do it the different phases of SDLC, but also at the same time we're going to look into the agile. So as we go through it, you will be able to look at it, hey, at this phase, this is what I do it. Here are the different models I need to do it. Okay, so that's what we'll focus on it. Now another important reason a business analyst plays a key role is when you look at the data, right? And this was not even in Europe, this was 1994, right? So one of the original analysis that came out and said, why do we need somebody to help understand the business requirement and the solution? So they did an analysis of over almost 8,000 plus projects and participants, and says, hey, when a project fails, what are the key reasons to fail? Okay. So there are obviously about 40% of the project failed because they didn't have adequate resources or money to do it. Right? In that case, there's nothing much you can do. If you don't have, if you're building it a 10-story house and you have money only for 1 story, your project is not going to fail. Right? It's going to be disaster. So some of those things is going to go there. But there are some other key factors that contributed towards the project failure. One of them is not having complete requirements. Business analyst does it to help collect requirements, right? So if you don't have a business analyst, this is going to be some category that you need to worry about. Lack of user involvement. Right? So somebody told you, go build a system. I'm not going to tell you what I wanted, but I just want something like this. By the time you give him this, it's, no, this is not what I wanted. Right? So business analyst helps it to get things out from the people's mind who are using the system, to put on the paper so that everybody else can understand what is expected. Okay. Unrealistic expectations. I want to build a 10-story building in 2 months. The business analyst helps you to ground to get some of the realistic expectations based on the complexity of the solution that is required. Changing requirement. For whatever reason, right? So like the market is changing, or hey, the business started looking into it and says, no, this is too much of a big chunk, let's just focus into a different one. Those changes requirement all the way from the users going into the systems, developers who are building the system, it's key. Right? We talked about requirements management and communication. That's the key. A lot of times, if the requirement changes and there is no communication, the project is bound to fail. Okay. Lack of planning. Business analyst helps in planning in terms of here are the different modules, here is the value it adds, so that they can start planning what is the more important thing to them. Okay. And it's just simple communications. I'll give you one of the examples. I like to enjoy the space and related music. Back in the first decade of this century, the US was working with, NASA was working with ESA in building a Mars aircraft. So they did an entire design, they launched it, went to the Mars, and on the descent, it just failed spectacularly. It just, instead of going slowly down to a 5-mile-an-hour landing, it just slammed at 200 miles an hour and got destroyed. Right? So they did an analysis and says, what happened, what went wrong? It's as simple as communications. US measures everything into miles, Europe measures everything in kilometers. So the communication, they communicated the number fine. They just forgot to have a clarity around what unit is going to be used. So when US was thinking, hey, I'm this far, so I need to apply this brakes, they were thinking in miles. So I have tons of time. European was just giving, here is the data, I'm only this much far away. Well, they were giving it, I'm this much far away in kilometers. The results, it didn't brake it sufficiently to have a gentle landing, because it was thinking it is in kilometer versus mile. Perfect example. 6.5 billion boom. Right? No value. Perfect example. Communication is key. That's where the business analyst plays a role. They tell you exactly what is required, what is it that business is translating, or even sometimes the two teams are translating it. Here are the costs, right? A whole bunch of numbers. Look at that. The most important. I gave you an example, right? The Affordacare implementation took longer, took way expensive than what is anticipated. If you don't have a good analysis of what is required, that means there's no good understanding of what needs to be implemented for that solution. that means people are going to underestimate, or in some cases people are going to overestimate. Both results are going to result in failures. Okay, look at that. Average project goes up by 20%, 120%. Okay. 85% rework cost because you don't have a good requirement. Okay. 3 out of 10 project gets completely canceled. Now think about it. If I'm a medical person and I'm a doctor and I'm going to say it's, hey, 3 out of every 10 surgery I'm going to do it is going to fail. How many is going to come to this? Do you want to go to that doctor? No. Right? That's why it's an important, the business analysis. People often just, hey, I'm a business analyst, I'm just writing down the requirement. It's not only that. It's a skill that you require to make sure you understand, get things from people's head, put it into, well, this is what needs in the system.
So does the business analyst work closely with the project manager, or are they two different?
So a business analyst is part of the team. I would not just say this. I would not highlight that they work only with the project manager or more with the business with that. Think about it, it's a goal. Right? Just like quality assurance, quality needs to be embedded. Right? You can't just say, hey, I forgot the instrument inside patient's stomach after I finish the surgery. You can't do that. It needs to be part of your quality process of what to take it out when and where to put things. Right? So when you go into the surgery, there is a well-defined process of how everything does it. You need to do the same thing in your development. Your role, you need to, and again, this is not necessarily a person. That's always a role. Right? And anybody can play that role as long as they have that skill. The focus is here is the skill. Can I get the understanding of what exactly the business user is expecting you, and have the same understanding with everybody in the my development team? That's the role of the business analyst.
Can you talk about the roles in the team, typical team? Or do we have it? We have it later on. Okay, I thought we have it later on, yeah. But just want to make sure.
Yeah, we have it later on. I just don't want to complicate it because then I want to just focus on the. Yeah. But the more important thing about it, right, is I'm going to communicate with the business, with the application development team, to help them understand whether they're in the same page or not, right? In that, I may work with the project manager to tell them, hey, this is the changes coming in, this is what the expectations are. Based on that, there is a change in what you should be looking for completion. Okay. So let's talk about the projects. Okay, so far we talked about the various building blocks for the software development and architecture development. But when a business comes in, business comes with the different types of projects. Right? Each project is designed to address certain business needs and solutions. So at a very high level, right, you categorize all of your projects into 5 different categories. Okay. So the first category is when I'm building a solution for a problem for which there is no systems available today. So it's a ground up development. Well, a lot of times we call it in the software world as a greenfield development. So I don't have to worry about any legacy. I can build a solution the way I want it. I don't have any architectural constraint or technical constraints. Okay. So this is from ground up. The second set of projects is going to be enhancements. But it means the system already exists. I want to add additional features and functionality to that system. Okay. So from a business analyst point of view, the things that you need to worry about when it's a completely brand new system is going to be different than the things I'm going to worry about it when there's an enhancement. I need to understand what is the current capability, what are the current restraints, versus this one is, as I mentioned, it's a greenfield approach. And the third set of project is a rewrite, where the solution already exists, but exists in probably a platform or a technology that is not sustainable for future growth. That means I need to take it, move it to the new one. So this thing, it is understanding the existing system, deconstructing that, making sure nothing from the current system is kind of overlooked when you build into it, right? So if I'm rewriting a banking system, right, the last thing I want to do is forget the deposit functionality. Right? So the money still needs to come into the system in order for somebody to withdraw it or perform a transaction. The next set of project you're going to look into it is what is known as a platform migration project. Okay. So there's things which was running on a mainframe for a long time. Like the mainframe is expensive. Second important thing is that there are not that many developers who can still sit down and say, yeah, I can code on a mainframe and I can code on the cloud. So at some point it says, hey, just because there's nobody is learning COBOL anymore, the majority of my assets is tied into the COBOL, and I need to be viable for the next few years in the industry, I need to start working on moving that platform which is running on a mainframe to be a much more manageable and skill available platform. So that's where you're going to rewrite it. Right? Another example is nowadays, nobody wants to manage and maintain the servers in the data center. If you're in a small company, I don't want to keep that overhead. I can just go to the cloud and let them worry about all those things. But going to a cloud is not as simple as, hey, it was running on my PC, let me just go and put it on the cloud and it works. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. You have to rewrite it, you have to re-engineer some of the solutions and the functions on the systems. So that itself is a project. So that's typically a platform migration project. And then you have a data warehousing project. So we talked about the research data, right? Nowadays you kind of keep hearing about, hey, there's a cybersecurity violation alert and all, there's a whole bunch of data that is available to, like, for example, Facebook just had this entire issue with the business analytica where they were able to access tons of customers, right? They all are like it's residing in a data mart or what is known as data warehouses. This is where majority of analytics, whether it's a forensic analysis when somebody hacks into your system, or if I'm trying to do a marketing analysis, demographic, to figure it out which market I want to target and what solution I want to target, or upscaling for my own customers for different products. All those things happens from a data warehouse. And all those data may be residing in different systems of records that needs to be integrated into data warehouse, or a lot of times you run out of space and you need to re-architect your data warehouse to do things. So those are also one of the bigger area where it's continuously growing in terms of projects. What is known also nowadays is data science. So if I'm delivering a new drug into the market, like I have to do a whole bunch of FDA analysis, not just only for the US, but for every country. I need to manage and keep all those data, whether it's what drugs, what's effective, what kind of my patient demographics, what kind of treatments they did, that entire thing going to run into data warehouse, and then somebody has to map it and make an analysis of those. So those are the different types of projects. Any questions on that?
Can you please explain the difference between rewrite and platform migration? It kind of seems very similar.
So it seems similar, but it's completely different, right? So think about rewrite is, it's running in a COBOL and mainframe. I need to completely write it into a platform, which is a Java-based platform, or rewrite. Or I am going through merger and acquisition. I have 3 different systems from 3 different companies that merged it, performs the same function. So I want to rewrite it and get everything consolidated into one system. So that's a rewrite, right? It's the same functionality and feature which is present in the business today that I'm going to consolidate into one system. Versus platform migration is, everything works, but the platform on which it runs, like for example, the old DEC machines, there are some running it. Nobody manufactures those machines anymore. My system is much more targeted to run into that platform. Another example is, hey, my system used to run on Windows NT. Microsoft doesn't support Windows NT anymore. I need to go to the Windows 10 servers. Well, I need to re-migrate it into the platform from a Windows NT system into that.
It could be the new version of the software coming out, like Oracle or anything like that. They upgrade to the new systems.
You said about
Yes.
SAP, right?
Yeah.
So SAP used to be in a database, in the platform, which was in-house data hall. Now SAP offers exclusively cloud solution. How do I migrate it from that? That will be a platform migration.
Yeah.
Versus, hey, I was doing the purchasing process within the SAP. Somebody else was also doing in PeopleSoft. They had a different version, I had a different, and you do rewrite it. That's a rewrite.
Okay, I have a question that it's about the in-house. When you were actually getting us through the application software, you did mention about the proprietary software of the shelf, open source software. Is in-house software not supposed to be one of them? Because proprietary is where, probably the way I understand it, if you buy it, you may need to pay some fees for it, but in-house, if you find that whatever you have for a proprietor, if it doesn't really fit your needs, then you can make something that really fits your needs within the company itself.
Right, so in a house, this typically is that I will build a software, but I will not sell it. It'll be
Yeah.
just only for my use, right?
Yeah.
The three categories that we were talking about, proprietaries, I'm still gonna sell the software, but it'll run only on the platform that I
Yeah.
provided, right? Versus if I'm, like it's in a banking industry, and I'm building it a customer management system from ground up, I'm not gonna sell that, I'm just doing it only for my bank. That's an in-house development, but it's proprietary, but at that point it's a mute discussion because I'm not selling it, it's only available in my system. Versus if I have to sell it, then there is a proprietary versus open source or off the shelf comes in. It's a different viewpoint on the same software development process.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's get an example, okay? Your kid builds a game that he wants to play, but he's not going to sell it anybody. It's his own game, his own made-up rules, his own way to do it, right? It doesn't matter whether it's a proprietary or off-the-shelf, because he's not selling it, right? So that's an example of in-house, right? It doesn't matter what software. He may use it Java or any other platform
Yeah.
to build it. So he's used one of the available platform in the market to build it.
That is
But let's say tomorrow his friend comes in and says, oh, it's a cool game, can I have it? Right, he says, okay, it's not ready to sell, let me package it up and sell it. But oh, by the way, in order to play it, you have to come to my house only to play it. Now that's a proprietary. But he says, oh, let me go build it, it's cool, let me put it on Apple Play Store or Apple Store. Now it's an off-the-shelf. It'll work on Apple Store. It'll work on any Apple devices, not just on the one that you built. Does that make sense? That's essentially how it's. So the next domain you need to start thinking about is understanding the problem, right? So when you go get those 5 different types of system development projects, right? The more important is you need to start probing in as an analyst and start understanding what is the domain of the problem for me. Okay, so you need to start doing the analysis. And in order to do analysis, you ask 4 fundamental things. First, figure it out, what is the business problem, right? I'm not talking system problem. What is the business problem you're trying to solve it? What is the objective? What is driving you to build that solution? And what is the scope? Okay. So let's take an example, and then we'll go through it, each one of them and talk about it. So, let's say, think about Amazon and Barnes and Noble, 10 years ago, right? So I'm a Barnes and Noble, a local bookstore, brick and mortar bookstore. Okay. So, I want to expand my market share to grow. So I was local here only in Columbus, but now I want to expand it. Okay, so my problem is the market growth. The key issue is I want to expand beyond the Columbus. So far, the only way people can purchase the book is if they come to my store, look at it and purchase it. Right? But there's a huge market out there nationwide that I want to tap in and grow. So that's my business problem. Right? So understanding the problem is I'm a brick and mortar. I want to start getting into online so that not even online, I want to expand my market share beyond Columbus market, right? There may be different ways to solve the problem, right? There may be says, hey, let's just open up a store in every city. Could still be the solution, right? Or I want to have an ability for every city to go in and order it. But my problem is the market growth. My objective is I want to build an online system so that I don't have to open that many stores, but I can still tap into the growth. Right? So, problem is different, the objective is different. Problem is growth, objective is to build an online capability. The drivers. So the next thing comes in is, what is the driver which is driving me for the solution? It's an Amazon or competition. If I don't expand, I don't provide an online solution, we're going to start losing market share and I will become irrelevant. So that is my driver, is I need to compete with all of my competitors. I need to still stay relevant. That's my business driver. If I don't do that, right, my business may not be viable for a long time. Then it comes to scope. Great. I want to build an online solution. What all do you want to build? Do you want to build everything yourself? Or do you want to build certain things and leverage other components? So for example, hey, I can do it entire ordering, shipping, billing, and tracking, entire thing myself. Or I said, hey, you know what, I will just do the ordering and inventory management. I will let whoever I have a tie-up, whether it's a FedEx or UPS, to manage the shipping and tracking part of it. I will have a third-party provider who will take care of the payments. I'll just invoke their service, provide them the data, and let them worry about the payment. Right? So my scope here is ordering an inventory for a new development in integration with the other. Everybody clear how you can do it, right? If my scope of solution, now it's very clear that, hey, I'm not going to try to build a shipping functionality, right? But I'm going to build an ordering. So what is my part of my scope and what is not part of my scope? That's the understanding you need to have. So as a business analyst, when you're trying to look into the problem, working with the business users, you start drilling it down into 4 things. And answer to this 4 thing is going to drive the whole design and requirements for you. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So Margaret, some of this thing is going to be repetitive for you. So if you know the answer, please stay away from participating in the class for this particular exercise. Okay. This is the same exercise that we do in the QA boot camp, but from a different angle viewpoint, so that she knows the whole discussions around it. So when you look into any business problem, it falls into one of the 5 categories. So we talked about the types of project, but you also need to think about from the business viewpoint of view. What is the problem it's trying to solve it? Okay. So when you look at any problem, it's gonna fall into one or more of these issues. For business, when they start investment, they will have only one of this as a primary focus of why they're doing it. Okay, so the first focus is need for process improvement. Okay. So, process improvement, that means I already have a business process in place, but I'm doing a lot of things manually, right? So, one of the example is, let's say I need to fax an order from one office to another office. It's a manual process. What if I automatically save that fire of an email? So now nobody has to go and worry about fax machines, worry about faxing it, making sure it reached the other person in case the other fax machine was down and holding it, right? So it helps me to improve my process, that my whole faxing aspect gets eliminated. As soon as it's created, it automatically can get that. So that could be a process improvement example. The other example is the productivity improvement. So productivity is essentially how much work was done by one particular individual or one particular unit of the business. Okay. So let's say I was processing 15 orders a day, and I want to increase that capacity from the business solution and say that instead of 15, now I want to have the same person capable to handle 40 orders a day. Then what type of solution I will implement? That becomes my productivity improvement. Because I understand what my process, but I just want to speed up things, right? I want to increase the productivity. So that's a productivity improvement. The next type of business problem is cycle time improvement. So let's take an example, right? From the time the customer orders an item till the time it ships to them was taking 5 days. I want to cut down that from 5 days to 2 days. That means my cycle time to deliver the item to the customer, I need to improve it by 3 days, right? From 5 days into 2 days. So that's the cycle time improvement. So if my focus is to build a solution that will allow me to do that, that's a cycle time improvement. The next one is to reduce the cost. So a shipping item to a customer cost me $5 per item, let's say. And I want to reduce that cost to $3 per item. And if I'm trying to build a solution to do that, that's reducing cost, right? It could be changing, there doesn't have to be a software solution, right? It could be changing the provider. Or in some cases, it could be building a solution and changing provider both, right? So I may just provide an option system. It said, hey, I need to ship this packet from here to here. Have 4 or 5 shippers bid that. And whoever is the lowest bidder, who meets my SLA, I may just grant it to that. Right? So that's a combination, right? A bidding software that allows me to bid that and then change it. And the last one is improving the market share. We just gave an example. Hey, I'm brick and mortar, and I want to go ahead and expand it nationwide. That's my improving the market share from a local market, or maybe just 1/10 of the whole population that I was able to access it as a market, to now I'm getting 100% of the population. So when you have a business problem, and then you try to look into what is the key driver that is forcing you to build a solution, that's what this is a business problem. Okay. Let me give you a minute. Let me pull up a exercise that we will do it. So this is one of the problem or project that we do it typically in our quality assurance boot camp. So Margaret, you can read whatever else you want to read it, or you can observe it the rest of the class. But I want you guys to read this and to take about 5-7 minutes to read this particular problem. I'm going to leave it up here. And then all I want you to do it is tell me which one of the 5 categories of the business problem it is. That's what we talked about: process improvement, cost, cycle time, market share, right, and productivity. So read through this and tell me what type of problem the business is trying to solve.
Can you zoom in a little bit? Yeah, that should be good. There's a glare there, that's the only thing, otherwise I can print it out.
Yeah, if I zoom it anymore, it'll go into the next page.
Okay.
Are you able to read it, Sergio? How about you, Namrata? Are you able to read through it?
Just the lower part, because.
Just the last two lines. If you scroll up, maybe that might be okay. Yeah. 1 line too. Okay.
Can you read through it now?
Yeah.
Okay. So take it, it's 11:22, take time till 11:30, read through it, then think about it, couple of more minutes, what category it falls in, and then we'll have a discussion in the class of what category it falls in. Just let me, in the meantime,